Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
I want to thank Ed and Marguerite Biddle. They dropped off a beautiful note, nice little letter to the editor, to the Altoona Mirror, and also jar of peach. I mean, it's really.
Hey.
No.
Nice.
I feel like I'm the hero in the company today because Ed and Marguerite. And
Nice.
so, I mean, they listen to this podcast and watch this podcast often.
Nice.
I'm not going to say all the time, but often. And I want to express my deep appreciation to them, A, for doing that, and B, for taking the time to drop that off.
Absolutely.
It's really, really, really nice. So, in the note they sent, you don't come out very well. No, but it's like, no,
Well, you know, yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding you. I'm just joking. Come on.
My last name is only 4 letters. I can't believe they couldn't get it right now.
God. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's get to a couple of items here first. Yana continues, obviously, his journey out in Chicago. Now, as you know, I can't stand, as you know, click headlines. I can't stand them.
Sure.
Right? Now, it should be pointed out that we talk about week 0. Penn State's not playing week 0. It's August 23rd, but we are now 100 days away from the first game of the college football season. Okay? Now, there's this great headline. Belichick has addressed personal life with players. No, he didn't. You know what he said? He got asked about it. He says, we talk about everything. That was the quote. We talk about everything. That's not. We talk about everything. Like, okay. That's not quite. What? No. Jim Smith, who's been an executive with the Atlanta Braves, is now going to be the athletic director at Maryland. And I only mention that because it's a Maryland hire within the conference. We talk about everything. I didn't even. I already had read an article about this, so I didn't even click it. It's like a bunch of frauds. All he said was we talk about everything. Smith had been the Brave senior vice president for business strategy. He's had that job since 2020. He'd been an executive with the Atlanta Falcons. He was the vice president and general manager of the Columbus Crew at one point. He also was the president of a sports consulting company, JS Sports Properties and Consulting, which advised on marketing leadership and revenue maximization. So Jim Smith, that's why it's JS, by the way. You worry me.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got to fill in so many blanks. Brett Bielema and Brad Underwood get 6-year contracts with Illinois. Now, these are recruiting contracts. In other words, you give them a 6-year extension. You know, you're obviously happy with people, but you give them a 6-year extension. Now they can go out, they can recruit and do whatever, and they're going to say, are you still going to be there? Yeah. So they picked up that along the way. He's addressed personal life. All he said was we talk about everything. We get up there and make a team speech. What the heck?
Anybody that's ever heard
Who
of Bill
writes these headlines?
Anybody that's ever heard of Bill Belichick answer is just, oh man alive.
Where are we coming up with all this stuff? Lee.
Same guy that you've played the Colts seven times. You've won 4, lost 3. There's similarities in the 7 games. Manning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the difference in the 2 Super Bowls you've played in? Well, one we played in Minnesota, another one we played in.
Yeah.
It's literally, it's this guy's answers. For crying out loud.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's
look, so Yannick has done what I kind of thought Yannick would do. I thought he'd go to the elite. I thought going in he would go to the G League elite camp, which he did. I thought when I looked at the rosters and who the potential matchups were for him, I thought he'd get to the NBA Combine camp. But I'm thinking that these guys aren't in his league athletically. Right? Now the question is, how's he going to do against the Cooper Flags, Janai Brooms of the world, and so forth? And look, I expect that he will do well at this camp. I think he's a heck of a prospect. And it is an interesting dynamic that I'm watching. Penn State fans, like, they want him to do okay, but they don't want him to do great because they want him to come back. Well, I appreciate the fact you want him back, but look, just root for the guy, will you?
Uh-huh.
Right?
Absolutely.
Root for the guy as a person. I mean, as a program, look, it's like, people lose guys all the time. Well, we'll see how this plays out. Right? It's not as if he's not being offered some significant coin to stay here. He is.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Sure.
And now he's got to make a decision as to, what he is. The question is going to be, is he a top 35 guy or is he a bottom 24 guy? Right? There's 59 picks in the draft this time. Is he a top 35 guy? If you can get yourself to the top 35 of that neighborhood, which is, first round or early in the second round, you can make you're going to be able to make some money. Okay. If you fall, if you end up in the let's just say 48 to 59 range, you're like, I don't know. And that's, and now we'll just see how it plays out. And you know me, and everybody hates when I say this. One step at a time.
Sure.
I was interviewed today by somebody about the upcoming Penn State football season. And they were talking about the expectations of what they could be ranked. And I said, look, everybody wants to go to chapter 16 or 17 in the book. All right? They want to find out the conclusion. I said, look, you got to negotiate the other 16 chapters to get there. I said, that's
Absolutely.
what football season is. I said, so to me, the whole thing is you start with Nevada. Everybody's like, oh, Nevada, Florida International, Villanova, no big deal. And I always point out that, like, from a point of perspective, I was fortunate enough early in my career, very young. I was the third guy on the Penn State network. I did fill in 85. I filled in several games as the color analyst. And one time in 86, I filled in as a color analyst. But I was the third guy on the network with Gil Santos and John Grant. You could not have handed two better mentors for a young broadcaster than Gil Santos and John Grant. I mean, I can't say enough about both those guys. And in that 86 season, which means I was there every step of the way, doing the pregame with Joe, doing the postgame with Joe, doing halftime, doing scores of other games while Gil and John did the games. And then the pit game I filled in as the analyst. John did the play-by-play. And John, by the way, I thought every time John filled in and did play-by-play, I thought he did a fabulous job. And in 86, there was a game against Cincinnati. And, it's like the 94 season. In 94, of course, everybody remembers the Illinois game where they had to, come back from 21-0 down and, they won the game. Well, in 86, everybody remembers the Miami game. They remember the Notre Dame game. They remember the Pitt game. They remember, all these games that you remember. Everybody forgets the Cincinnati game. Penn State is favored by $1 billion. Favored by $1 billion. And they go out, and they're losing the game in the fourth quarter. And John Schaefer hits Blair Thomas on a 3rd and long over the middle at the 50-yard line, and Thomas makes the catch, first down. Then he hits Blair Thomas on another pass, and then David Clark runs it in, and Penn State takes the lead late in the fourth quarter. Then Cincinnati, right, they're down now 21-17. It's 17-14, so now it's 21-17. Cincinnati can't do anything. They have to punt, and Shane Conlon blocks the punt. They get a safety. Penn State wins the game 23-17. You don't beat Cincinnati, you don't win the national championship. So there are lessons that you learn from your career that you can apply when people are like, oh, excuse me. You're one of those people that probably in 1986 would say, Cincinnati's no big deal. That's already a win. Well, in the fourth quarter, you're sweating bullets.
Yeah.
Because every game takes on some personality. So that's why I take the book, I go chapter 1.
Absolutely.
Then I go, boom, okay, let's go to chapter 2. Right? And there's, today they use the word process all the time. And that to me is in a football season that you have to take a long, hard look at, that every week brings something. Like, I remember last year with the Bowling Green game. Well, Bowling Green is winning the game in the fourth quarter. Oh, okay. And Fannon's having a big day. He's playing great. And Penn State rallies and finally wins the game. Oh, well, Bowling Green. Well, guess what? It's obvious, based on name brands, who big games happen to be. USC's a big game. Minnesota's a big game. Ohio State's a big game, right? But you don't beat Bowling Green.
Yeah.
But you don't think Bowling Green, for them, that wasn't a big game?
Absolutely.
Hey.
Appalachian State season opener, go to overtime.
Yeah.
That's,
but
those
if
games
you want to get anywhere, if you want to get anywhere, you have to take care of business each and every week. And each and every week brings with it some challenge somewhere. And if I'm watching the Stanley Cup playoffs last night. Toronto was in a 2-2 tie with the defending Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. So now they're playing in Toronto. Game 5, pivotal Game 5. Toronto, place going insane. Toronto played like a team that was skating in mud and lost 6-1. I mean, I'm talking looked bad all night. Florida looked great. Toronto looked bad all night. One of the biggest games they've ever played. And it's not as if that's not Austin Matthews and John Tavares, all the way through. I mean, I know they didn't have their starting goalie last night, right? But Marner, all those, I mean, that's a good team. And they looked like a terrible team last night. They looked like a regular season game between the Bruins, who didn't make the playoffs, and the Edmonton Oilers.
Right.
Where they're outmatched. Toronto's good. They played like a lousy team last night on their home ice. And Craig Berube, they asked him afterward about it. He goes, he says, the weird thing is that's sports.
Yeah.
It's not the best answer. People are like, I don't want to hear that answer. I want to hear something where it's like, oh.
Yeah, you don't want to hear the truth.
I mean,
Truth doesn't get you anywhere.
I mean, you don't know.
No.
When I was talking to broadcast classes over the years, I always tell them, I'd point to the whiteboard there. I said, every game starts like this. There's nothing. I said, and then through your words, you start painting a picture of the game. I said, and at the end, the picture's finally done and it emerges. Last year, I was at the Philadelphia event, and Saquon Barkley was there. And they had a guy that could paint. And he's really fabulous. Well, the last part was we did it on stage live. And then when it was done, they were going to auction off the painting. Well, he's doing it. It's upside down, the whole thing. And I finally started to figure out what he was doing. Right? And I'm looking, I'm not going to say it. I'm thinking to myself, as he's doing this, I think that's going to be Saquon Barkley. Right? He's doing it, then he adds in the headband and the whole thing. It's upside down. It's not, okay? It's not right side up.
Right.
But he gets it done, he takes turns, and it's perfect. Right? Barkley, by the way, bid on it, and Saquon got it. I'm not gonna give. Saquon gave a really nice number to get it, but there was a great bidding going on back and forth. He finally got it. It was brilliantly done, but that is taking the blank canvas.
Yeah.
And that's what a game is, a blank canvas.
Absolutely.
And then as the game goes, the picture starts to emerge, and then boom, you have it at the end.
Yeah.
Right? That in the business is called an analogy.
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct.
That's some broadcast.
Analogies saved me on the SATs.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
The critical reading part, I didn't read too critically. The analogies, on the other hand, bang.
God, where do we find these people? Golly.
But yeah, no, it's absolutely.
But I use the analogy.
Absolutely, and that's. I go back to, we mentioned Bill Belichick at least twice. I'm going to go three today. I remember an interview. This is when he, at the time, had won 5 rings. Yeah. And, the question was, and this was in May, now the goal is to win a 6th ring. And he said, that's too far away. Our goal is to get into training camp, build a roster that gets us ready for the season.
Right.
And that's goals are short term, where you can have long term goals, absolutely, but those short term goals lead to those long term goals, and that's where a lot of times separates good from great in sports. Everybody's goal is to win the Super Bowl. Your goal, otherwise, is to what you do to get to that moment.
Right. Well, look. Everybody loves skipping to the end of the book. Mm-hmm. Who is the murderer?
Absolutely.
Right. More often than not, when I've ever done that, your name comes up. No,
that's unbelievable. I'll tell you what, it's unbelievable.
Like, wow, a lot of people know this guy.
And we're the ones where they shock it and I'm not, and they message me immediately and say, oh, here we go again. No, read the book.
But people want to skip past.
Absolutely.
And find out in the end who what the conclusion happens to be.
Yeah.
Well, a sports season's like a book.
Completely. Completely.
And you've got to read all the chapters to really set up the book.
Yeah.
And to set up the conclusion. And, it's, and a lot of people don't want to do that. They want to skip chapters.
They want to skip it. Sure.
And I've said once, I've said a million times, I completely understand the luxury a fan has.
Absolutely.
Of, and the Oregon game is coming up.
Yes.
I get it.
Sure.
You have the luxury, okay, of being a fan. When you're involved in it, you don't.
No.
Okay, when you're involved in it as a coach, you can't. When you're involved in it as a player, you can't. I mean, I simplify it for people so I'll do this on a personal level. I can't broadcast the Oregon game
right
on August 30th. The only game I can broadcast is the Nevada game. So from a personal point of view, it's the only game I can get ready for. Well, it's the only game they can get ready for. They're playing it.
Sure.
And you don't skip steps.
No.
You don't skip steps. You don't go from A to Z. You got to take care of steps B through Y to get there. I know you're sitting there thinking about the alphabet. You're a little confused right now. There's 26 of these letters.
There is. Yeah. There is.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
There is. Sometimes they make you read it out loud just to make sure you know it.
Oh.
But, even you use the simple analogy, and you talk about the alphabet, I'll use another analogy. I'll use a math problem. You skip steps to get to your solution. What do you get? You don't get a perfect grade, do you? And that's where ultimately where it is. One thing leads to another. That is where ultimately what happens. And that's the beauty part of sports. It's the beauty part of life. And I think that's the biggest part, where everything leads to that spot. Difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. That's an absolute great quote. It's the truth.
Well, I mean, there's, another one is, every time I take a shortcut, I get lost.
Yeah.
You try to follow the directions as precisely as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
sure.
That's what you have to do when you're involved in it. Again, when you are a fan, okay, you can skip to any game you want.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I have complete appreciation for that. Complete appreciation for it.
Absolutely.
But when you're involved in it, you can't.
No.
When you're involved in it as a coach, a player, a trainer, a doctor, anybody that's within the organization can't. Okay? There's a process to get ready for it. And when you're doing that process, you can't skip steps.
No.
And I think that's something that's important, that if you're going to sit here and do this job, you're going to have a different perspective than somebody who's not. It's only because I'm around it all the time.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean I don't appreciate you as a fan saying, hey, what about Oregon? What about Ohio State? I get it.
Sure.
I completely get it. All right? But when you're doing what we do or around it, you can't do that. Right? Oh, they're playing Florida International. Well, guess what? Okay, the Florida International guys are going to be the guys out there going to talk about them.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you go back to, one of the biggest things that I remember in terms of games, obviously, I use the comparison with the 49ers here, where you go back to 1990.
Oh, okay. We could stay away from the Bush League organization.
That's right. The Bush League organization, then the team that won the Super Bowl. There you go. You go back to 1990.
Some years, other people just lay down.
That's right. 1990's prime example. You go back to where you are anticipating what was going to be quite possibly the biggest Monday Night Football game of all time. 49ers are 10-0. The Giants are 10-0.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The week before, the Giants play the Eagles, they lose. The 49ers play the Rams, they lose. Yeah. Suddenly 11-0 isn't happening. And that's why...
Is this the Bavaro game?
That was the one...
1990? Wasn't that the Bavaro
90
game?
was where he drug lie. Yeah. Yep. That was the 7-3 game. Literally. That's... And conference championship, too, obviously. The story is Montana goes out in that game, obviously. But that game was a struggle, too. One touchdown scored in that game.
Yeah, 5 field goals by Penn State's Matt Barr.
Yep. But you go back to that Monday nighter. Everybody was anticipating 11-0 against 11-0. You got 10-1 against 10-1.
And it turned out to be a great game.
It was a classic. Yeah, absolutely. 7-3 at Candlestick Park, where I think Alcatraz had better views from the sidelines.
Again, the complaints. Everything's a complaint.
That is...
Did you ever see a game at Candlestick Park?
I did not, but I saw many people who had seats that did not have a phenomenal view. It was, you were in the era where baseball stadiums were football stadiums converted, and you had, the infield in September and October until it finally became a full-fledged football field in November. Candlestick Park was one of those fields. County Stadium in Milwaukee was another one of those fields. That was back when the Packers...
Your Kezar Stadium was great.
People forget some of the classic games that were played at County Stadium. The Packers didn't play every game at Lambeau Field
they played
in the days. Yeah.
When they played 14 games, they played 4 games at Lambeau and 3 at County Stadium.
Yeah.
Finally stopped that in the early 80s.
I think it was 9. Favre's second year, I think they started. That was the final game.
90s,
they beat the Falcons, yeah. Yep.
And then that was it.
Yeah. But those were certainly the days. Veterans Stadium was another stadium. Oof. Yeah.
I told you the Chris Wheeler story, right?
I think so. Yeah.
When the press box came down, press box comes down, and in fact, when I was done, I literally got in the car and I drove to Philly. I had to do the Palestra game. So I get a text from Wheels. He said, Steve, did you feel the same way about, did you feel a sense of nostalgia when the press box came down, or did you feel the same way I did when they blew up the vet? I texted him back and I said, the vet.
Absolute worst turf in football.
I walked in that
my
field.
Goodness.
Awful.
Absolute worst. Wendell Davis, unfortunately, was never the same after playing in that game. Horrible. and look, I love Philadelphia. I love the teams. The Eagles and Phillies deserved better than that stadium, and they have 2 phenomenal stadiums now.
Oh, now
the Link is incredible, and Citizens Bank is amazing.
I think the Link is
absolutely
fabulous, and I think Citizens Bank Park is tremendous.
Yeah.
Did the same thing in Pittsburgh. Now, I think Heinz or Acrisure Stadium is not quite to the level of the Link.
No, I don't think so at all.
I was kind of surprised at, but PNC Park is one of the true gems.
Yeah.
In all of sports. I mean, an absolute gem. And yeah. Yeah. The NFL schedule is out. Your beloved 49ers now have to play some legitimate teams.
That's right. Easiest schedule in the NFL, though.
Once again, I'm not surprised. I mean, certain teams are handed things because they're just hoping. Right? hoping that they can play a schedule like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. You also had 3 teams that did not get any primetime games. I think the Browns didn't, Saints didn't, and surprised the Titans didn't. I thought maybe Cam Ward at the least would get a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
So that was
normally they try to give everybody.
Yeah.
Right? I'm surprised. Cleveland didn't get any. Let's think about that for a second. So what happens out of nowhere if Shedeur Sanders has to start a game? Do they flex the game in prime time?
They could. I'm surprised. I'm surprised they didn't get a Browns Steelers game in there or something. I was very surprised to see the Browns. As bad as the Browns are as a football team, they have a passionate fan base that is loyal.
Yeah.
When a team leaves a city and comes back,
They do.
that tells you something. And I think there's not the same exact team, but you get my point. But that's to me that was surprising.
Yeah.
The Saints, obviously, I think they've got a lot of question marks. Who's going to play quarterback for them, I think, is a big issue. But, yeah, the other two I'm very surprised on. I'm very surprised the Titans. I'm surprised they didn't get a chance to put the number 1 pick in prime time at some point. And the Browns, I was surprised on, too. They did get rid of, obviously, 2-3 years ago, they had the rule where the maximum was 5. Right. Now they've gotten rid of that. Chiefs have 7, Eagles have 6.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they had I think you could get 6, and the Jets were on in 11 the last 2 years because of the Rodgers factor. And so we were subjected to watching. Oh, the Jets.
Yeah, I also, I think, speaking of the Jets, by no mistake, did you happen to see who they opened their regular season with at home against the Steelers?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that and thought, well, they didn't plan that at all.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. It's so 3 didn't get it.
Yeah, I think
normally with the first overall pick in the draft.
That's what exactly. That was my first thought too. You want to put them in prime time, at least on a Thursday night game. Yeah. I get why the Titans aren't on Monday Night Football. They're a bad football team, but I don't think there's any question you get them on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
We've seen some terrible Thursday night games.
Yeah, but I looked at the Thursday schedule this year. It was the only one I looked at. I didn't look only because I didn't have a lot of time this morning.
Yeah.
Because there was an interview I had to do this morning, and I was working on a game for the season because I try to take them one step at a time. I'm up to November now. So it just turned out I saw something on Thursday Night Football. I thought the matchups for the most part looked like they were pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought they did a better job. I think you're also stacking. I thought it was interesting they put the Eagles-Chiefs week 2. That was a game I thought maybe was going to be.
I thought the opening game. I would not have done Dallas.
I wouldn't have done Dallas. I think the Rams could have been a better choice there. I think the Rams on.
I would have put Detroit.
You would have put Detroit. Yeah, I
want to know why? Because Detroit didn't play Philadelphia.
No, they didn't. But I think you can hype that.
Everybody kept anticipating.
Yeah, and that's why I think you stretch that to the end of the year. I think that's like a couple of years back when the 49ers and the Eagles had their issues. I think you anticipate it. You put it in December instead of the opener.
I understand.
Yeah, then I think it does it. But yeah, they get the Lions. Yeah. Lions are on Sunday night. Yeah, they get the Lions on a Sunday night. They go back to back. They get the Packers Monday night, and then they get the Lions on a Sunday night. But yeah, I thought that was interesting putting the Chiefs week 2. Yeah. I thought that could be a game that was probably going to be later in the year. That was a protected CBS game, but still, I think there's no doubt that game could have been later. But if you're a Chiefs fan, you'll be working the holidays this year. You got Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Evidently, the Chiefs embrace it.
Except for playing in Brazil. Doesn't sound like they're too keen on that.
Well,
Travis
no.
Kelce especially.
Well, no, that part I understand.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, I understand that completely. But it sounds
I
like,
see both sides.
Like the Christmas thing. I mean,
Yeah.
It sounds like as an organization. I don't mean just a player, but
What?
as an organization, it sounds like they embrace the Christmas thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's obviously you have the triple header on Christmas where you have the Chiefs and Broncos Christmas night.
That game is going to be on Prime.
Yeah,
it is not on.
Yeah,
Netflix.
the other two are on Netflix. Yeah.
Okay, and
Lions, I think, also play both holidays, right?
yes,
I think they do play Christmas.
Yes, they do, because you're going to have the 2 Saturday games on the 20th will involve the teams that are playing on Christmas, except for the Chiefs and the Broncos.
Yeah, and the difference is, I believe, I don't know if it's fully confirmed yet, the game times are going to be different that day. It is going to be 4:30 and 8 for the NFL games.
On the Saturday?
Yeah, and not 1 and 4:30. So, and it drives you nuts because it feels like that's an earned spot. Again, it's... Look, we're in a college town. I may have some bias in the opinion, but my goodness, they just give that day to college football.
There's especially with Christmas being on a Thursday this year.
Yeah.
You don't need to buy extra time.
You don't at all.
It's a normal
You don't at all.
schedule.
So now you basically, I mean, assuming that does come to form.
Last year I could sort of understand it because
and they got I don't want to say they got lucky. I think the matchups played to form, I thought, on that Saturday, which helped them a little bit because you were able to balance it out where Penn State didn't coincide with the Steelers, obviously, and same thing. Texas doesn't. No, you're not going to be able to. But yeah, that is the rumor. I do not know if that is confirmed, but the rumor is they are going to go 4:30 and 8 that
didn't
day.
they put out times last night?
They didn't put times out for those end games. Those are all TBDs. Yeah, if they do that, my best guess is
one of those Saturday games is the Bears.
Yeah,
and
Bears and Packers.
Well, but they've got it on their schedule at Chicago, 3:30 or 7 at Central Time.
Yeah, so they are going 4:30 and 8 then. Yeah, so that's true then.
On Fox.
Yep, so that is going to be the case.
I mean, do you take the time to look up?
I had the story. I just didn't know it was confirmed. But obviously that's a spot
this
where
is a schedule.
But that is official then.
It has times on it. Okay.
So that is
a schedule. Okay. The Packers are playing at noon against the Colts in a preseason.
That's
game.
correct.
Right. What do you mean it's correct?
The Eagles play the Bengals and Browns in the preseason. I did see that, but
the Vikings are at noon. These are all Central Time. At Detroit, noon. Okay, Bears at Lambeau, noon. At Denver, 3:25, which is 4:25 Eastern. For those who may not understand Central and Eastern Time,
I'll tell you what. You believe it or not, there are people who look at those schedules and say, "What the heck are they playing a 1:05 game for in California?" Or 10 a.m. Better yet. Oh, what are you playing a 10 a.m. game for in California? You're not. They play to the coast of the time with the. But so that is true. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It really is because obviously, if the season plays out to what you expect it to, you're going to have the Commanders and Eagles at 8 o'clock.
These guys don't care.
No, they don't. They don't.
I mean,
no, they don't.
The NFL guys.
Exactly. The NFL can do what the NFL wants to do because they're the NFL.
They are a scorched earth league.
Sure.
Okay, scorched earth.
Yeah.
College football, don't care. They're your feeder system, don't care. NBA has Christmas, don't care.
Don't care. Nope, don't care at all. And
we do what we want to do.
Yeah, and from the NBA perspective, Christmas Day is essentially the day they bank on. Yeah, there is no doubt about it. It's not far-fetched to say the ratings show it. The regular season in the NBA is not pleasant when it comes to viewership, and it has the toughest demographic you can have with that young audience, and the viewership is still not great. Christmas Day is what they rely on.
I had to laugh Like Christmas Day helped bring them back. Okay. So Christmas Day helps bring them back. But for the year, they were down 2%. And Adam Silver was touting it as a victory because of where they started. I'm like going,
no, that's...
Okay.
Major League Baseball and the NBA both have to figure out what they can do in the regular season to entice some more fans to watch because they are struggling in that avenue right now. But yeah, to your point with the NFL, I agree 100%.
Sports stars?
Yeah, they don't care. They don't at all care. They know they're the top. They're the king of kings. They know they could put a game at 3 a.m. and people are going to watch it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It does not matter.
Oh, I know.
And that's the same with these Monday Night Football doubleheaders. What's it matter? Forget about the fact you can't watch both. It's just I don't get it. Well, no, I get it, but I don't agree with it.
Going head to head with the NBA, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to watch football.
That's not the system that helps make you who you are, like college football
is. I'm going to watch the Netflix games. I did last year. I probably
watched Chiefs. Yeah, I watched Chiefs and the Steelers last year.
Yeah, I watched that game as well.
Yeah.
The Texans played Baltimore.
That was the 4:30. Yep.
I had no interest in that game.
That was a blowout, I think, if I remember correctly.
But probably this Christmas, my guess is I will definitely watch the Prime Video game.
Yeah, the Chiefs and Broncos be a good one.
Right, Chiefs and Broncos. It's Prime Video.
Yeah.
I watch Thursday Night Football. Usually what I do is I'll do the talk show on Thursday. And now this Thursday night, I mean, it's Christmas night.
Yeah.
So we won't have the talk show.
Right.
But normally I'll do the talk show over at the field. When I'm done, James and I will do the pregame show. I'll get whatever food, bring it home, and I put on the Thursday night game. I enjoy doing that. Very much so. So my odds, I would say, of watching the Netflix games are, I don't know what the Netflix games are. Did they?
Was that the Lions and Vikings are one? And I'm trying to think of what that other game was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Lions and Vikings was one.
I'm not sure. That'd be,
and of course they've got to show me the history of Christmas Day games before they show me this game. The Cowboys Commanders.
Do you watch? Do you do any preparation for the show? You just walk in.
I had the schedule semi-memorized, but they play as Cowboys and Commanders is the other one. So the Cowboys also both holidays.
See,
Cowboys and Chiefs, I think on Thanksgiving Day is going to be a ratings monster. I think that'll be a phenomenal game.
Oh, that 4:30.
That 4:30 game. Yeah. No question on that one. Lions and Packers before it too.
Yeah, that'll be.
And then you have Ravens Bengals at night. I think the Thanksgiving slate is incredible.
Although, when Penn State played Michigan State, on Black Friday,
Lions Packers were right before that.
Right, and I remember I did the Texas A&M basketball game in Orlando, and I had like a 4:15 flight out from Orlando into Detroit. So I think it was 4:30 flight, Orlando to Detroit. So I get into Detroit, and I get to the hotel, and the Lions played the Packers earlier in the day. So there are Packers fans all over the hotel, right? And the things they said about you are...
Well, what the 49ers have done to them in the playoffs, I don't blame them.
Stunning. Right. Do you know? No, I never met him.
What the 49ers have done to them in the playoffs post Brett Favre, I should clarify.
Right. So I expected everything to be open.
Yeah. With the two fan bases, absolutely.
Nothing was
open.
Like nothing. And so
Yeah, especially the fact that it's 1 o'clock
Jack,
game.
Roger, Bob, and I think Brian was there too, had dinner because they now they didn't have to wait for me. They should have gone out, but we had dinner in the hotel restaurant, and because it was Thanksgiving, we had turkey burgers.
Yeah, nice.
It's like, but I said, "There's nothing open."
That's
there?
surprising.
And they're like, I said, they had a big game today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they said, no, everything's
Big game
closed.
today, big weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, everything's closed.
You're using Ford Field, obviously, the next day, too. Yeah.
Like, all right. Well, next day was Black Friday,
Yeah.
so everything was open.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
But Thanksgiving, no.
Yeah.
So what the Steelers open with the Jets.
They do. Yeah. That game, I think, is at MetLife.
Yeah. They got Seattle at home. Patriots at Foxborough. Vikings. Ooh.
That's the game that I think is in Dublin, right? That's the game that's in Dublin.
That's in Ireland.
Yep.
Bye week. And the Steelers are huge in Ireland.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Roonies, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But they are huge. Then they've got the Browns. Then they're at the Bengals, Packers. That looks like that's a Monday night game.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like they're going to play the Bengals on a Thursday night. Then they're going to play a Monday night game, the Packers. Then they got the Colts at home, so Tyler Warren goes to Acrisure. At Los Angeles, take on the Chargers. That looks like that's a
Sunday night game.
Sunday night game. The Bengals at home. Then they're at Chicago. Buffalo at home, late in the afternoon, November 30th. Then at Baltimore. I don't understand why they're taking the division games and grouping.
They always, and especially the Ravens and Steelers. You want to kind of put one in the middle of the season. They always put those two at the end. They did it last year too.
Yeah. Miami at home. That game is going to be
a Monday nighter.
Monday night game. Then at Detroit, and they'll get slaughtered. Then Cleveland at 1 o'clock on December 28th.
Yeah, there's one game. That's another thing. They're doing a
Baltimore on the date and time TBD week 18. So there you go.
Yeah, the Eagles obviously had the Bills. I think at the end of it was at December 28th, the end of the year. There, that obviously should be a good one.
Yeah. So there you go. Yes, the schedule is now out. And contrary to what you think, there are times.
Well, the Eagles and Bills will be the battle of the Penn State Athletics because you got Brumbaugh and Tripp.
Yeah, that's true.
Mark is one of the biggest Bills fans. Well, obviously the late great Chris Prospero was a big one, but Thomas Frank Carr is. But Mark's also one of the biggest Buffalo Bills fans I've ever met. They're going to be 87 inches of snow, and that guy's at the game.
So the Bengals game's Thursday Night Football, October 16th. They've got 2 Sunday night games. The Packers at Acrisure on the 26th. November 9th, the Chargers at SoFi, and then a Monday night game with the Dolphins on December 15th. So the Dolphins will be December 15th, Miami. No, I can see it now. It's not going to be a pretty night for the Dolphins.
No, the Steelers will probably be competing for the playoffs.
Mason Rudolph.
As of now.
Your guy.
As of now.
Your guy.
I don't know if you could fully overlook Will Howard by that time of the year. I think it's never know. If Aaron Rodgers says I've had enough and he retires, Will Howard's waiting in the wings for Mason Rudolph to screw up once or twice.
See, this is what the 49ers count on all the time. They
pulling a draft pick out of their blankety blank by getting a 7th round pick.
People screwing up.
Getting their rear end saved by a horrible draft day trade that gave up 3 first-round picks and drafting Mr. Irrelevant and saving it them in a big way.
Yeah. So, very quickly, if the NFL must think that Aaron Rodgers is going to the Steelers.
I would think so. Yeah. You don't do that. You don't do that by accident.
the Jets in the opening game.
Yeah, you don't do that by accident. Yeah, there's no way.
These are your.
That's
people.
like when Roethlisberger. I'll never forget when Roethlisberger was getting suspended, and then it was initially 6 games, took it down to 4, but they literally scheduled the Steelers, the easiest 4 games you could have scheduled, with a bye week right after. I thought, are you kidding me? Yeah. There's certain things the league does. I'm not saying they favor teams. I'm not going that far, but there are certain things they do where they do not do by accident.
Yeah. Yeah. The NFL does things deliberately. They're scorched earth.
They are.
It's kind of like working with you.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like when the show's over, it's like, God, look at the wake we left.
That's right.
Oh, I just want to tell you, that really is an ugly shirt.
It is.
But it looks really good on you.
That's right.
I'm done.